Zacks Screen of the Week, an overview of a timely stock screening strategy aimed at helping you produce more profitable investing results. Let's size up the market with our top stock screener here at Zacks.com, Kevin Matris, who is the head of our Research Wizard division, and he has screened for stocks that have performed well under various market caps over the past several years, right?
Yeah, as I was reviewing this year's market performance, I really wanted to see which market caps had performed the best. To no surprise, I had found that the small caps had beaten all of the other market caps. Small caps showed a 50% compounded annual growth rate in 2009.
Wow.
Mid caps came in second at 42.5%, and then large caps came in third with still a very impressive 35.9%. I should also mention, too, though, that all of those different market classes beat the S&P, which came in at 23.6%.
So just because small caps did the best, you can't forget about mid and large caps.
Correct. The small caps did show the greatest amount of outperformance in 2009, but, all of the different market classes have had their day in the sun. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to really go back over the last 8 years and kind of see which market caps were the best performers in the past. So what I did was, to illustrate this, I created 3 different screens. One screen, I looked at market caps less than 800 million, so that was my small cap group. Mm-hmm. The next screen, I was looking at companies with market caps between 800 million and 3.5 billion. That was my mid-cap group. And then I created a screen with market caps greater than 3.5 billion. That was my large cap group. All of those parameters, though, were applied to the same base group of stocks. In other words, they all had to have stocks trading over $5 a share, and they all had to have a minimum average daily volume of 100,000 shares traded on a daily basis.
Well, and you've got like unprecedented number of slides that
right.
Were produced as a result
right.
of these screens. I think you stayed awake nights. Must have been some nights you couldn't sleep.
Just yesterday. The one thing that's interesting is when I was building the screen and running these tests, what I did do was I ended up testing each one of those different classes over each one of the last 8 years, and I used a 1-week holding period to be able to see how good they did. Okay. I went from 2002 all the way through 2009. So let's start from let's start at 2002 and work our way to the present. So check it out.
Okay.
2002, that was a pretty lousy year, as you can see. The S&P was down 23.7. That was, still part of that terrible bear market. And you can see that all of the capitalizations did poorly. However, you can see that the large caps performed the least bad, showing a minus 20.7%. And then you see how the rest of the classes did. 2003 was pretty much the polar opposite. 2003, we saw the market perform greatly. It did 28.9%, but you can see the small caps were the biggest outperforming group, putting in a whopping 80.9%. 2004, once again, small caps were the big winner. Small caps produced a 109.9% return. All the other classes still did respectable. Mid caps did 68, large caps did 57. But again, the winningest group was indeed the smalls. 2005, you can see the edge did go to large caps. Actually, on the slide, I said the edge went to smalls, but actually the edge went to the large caps with a 12.7% return. Although I do have to say that a 9-point difference or a 9-point outperformance between the large and the smalls, that is kind of different than a 52-point outperformance that the small caps posted against the large in the previous year. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, it is worth looking at. The large caps were the best outperformer in that year. 2006, once again, large caps were the winner again, albeit by a slimmer margin. 2007, once again, large caps had won. What's interesting, though, is the large caps produced a 9.9% return. That was the only class that beat the S&P. Mids, they hung in there. They barely posted a positive return. But interestingly, the small caps actually not only underperformed the S&P, but they actually lost 6.5%. So it was interesting to see how that group was actually a net loser on the year. 2008, once again, that was almost like a mirror of 2002. All of the classes did terrible. The market was terrible as well. The mid-caps actually did the least bad, but again, having a 40% plus loss, no matter how you slice it, that's still pretty bad. 2009, though, the year that we just got through, small caps indeed were the best performer. Once again, you saw a 50% return. Mids did 42 and larges did 35.9. But even though smalls were the best performers, the best group, I don't think anybody would be upset with a 42% return or a 35% return, especially considering that the S&P only did 23.6. But even though the biggest outperformance was smalls, I think that it's important to keep consideration out there with all of the different groups, because what you'll realize is that even though there are times that the smalls will give you the greatest amount of outperformance, oftentimes if you're looking at that group, sometimes that comes with additional volatility and additional drawdown. So when the large caps were outperforming the smalls, usually you saw less volatility and less drawdowns, and for some people that is just the way to go.
Okay. Well, it is interesting, I will give you that. Seems like having a blend of all of the caps can give you some outsized returns over time, smooth out your performance, maybe even smooth out some of the volatility.
Correct. In fact, if you were to look at the last 8 years, check this out. All of the different caps actually beat the market. Over the last 8 years, the S&P showed an average annual return of 6.83%. The small caps did the best over that 8-year time span, 23%, but again, mids did 15, larges did 13, all very respectable gains, and again, they all beat the market by a pretty significant percentage.
So, because these were screens technically, you do have some stocks that have come through?
Yeah, what I did today was just to be able to produce some stocks, I ended up applying all of those 3 screens, and I ended up adding the Zacks #1 rank to each one of those classes. So I have 6 stocks today, 2 from each group, so check it out. You've got Maidenform Brands and Poly One Corp. Those are from the small cap group. Then you have SciTech Industries and Wabco. That is from the mid-cap group. And then we round it out with Cleveland Natural Resources and Hertz Global Holdings. Those are from the large caps. All of these stocks, though, look as if they look great on a chart, the fundamentals are excellent, and they all have a Zacks #1 rank, which is one of Zacks' best rating, and I think all of these should be considered on somebody's watch list.
Do you own any of these?
I don't have those.
All right. Nothing else left to say, except that if you want to read about this week's screen or screens that Kevin just outlined, you can go to Zacks.com's homepage and click on the live link, the headline right next to Kevin's picture, and that'll take you right to it. And if you want to find out more about the Research Wizard, that tool, that phenomenal tool that Kevin uses to achieve these screens, then go to Zacks.com/Research Wizard. With Kevin Matris and the Screen of the Week, I'm Terry Ruffalo.